access the start menu. I can't access the action center, Cortana. Any modern apps will open and instantly close. And when you check the event viewer, basically it's because Windows Family Safety is blocking everything.
Oh, that's great.
Which, yes, is rather frustrating. So I can't use the build at all. It's completely unusable. I'm certainly not the only person. I think it's possibly gone. I'm just seeing if I can find the topic. There's numerous topics on the Microsoft support forums with regards to this issue. So yeah, it's quite frustrating.
So does this even allow you to disable family settings, or you can't get that far?
No, because the family safety settings is normally handled through a website, and I've been onto there, and the website's absolutely fine. Although it does appear to be in a transitional state. It does seem that they're enhancing the family safety, maybe to work with more devices. As I said before, it's slightly disappointing when I got my son a Windows phone that you can restrict things like downloads from the store, but the same web filters that apply to the desktop versions of Windows don't apply on the phone. And I think that might be kind of being expanded out to cover more devices. I think with Windows 10 being, the base operating system for all devices, hopefully that the integration will be a bit better.
So, but you're really kind of stuck now, aren't you?
Yeah, completely. And it has been quite frustrating. Like I say, I'm not the only person to have reported it. And yet it does seem like it doesn't seem to get it's not getting any kind of recognition. And it's kind of, left me quite frustrated, because it feels to me like they're quite happy to discuss in the open any of the known issues that appear on the blog post. And I've noticed Gabriel is really good at responding to people that ask questions about them, but it seems to be they're not willing to discuss those kind of non-issues that aren't in the release notes. I mean, for me, this it's a showstopper, and to me it tells me this build isn't ready for the slow ring. I mean, if it's affecting so many people when there's only I think it's about 10%, I think they said, was on the fast ring. So certainly not a build. But I noticed on Twitter today that Gable responded to someone saying that it's no update for slow ring yet, but the current build looks really good. So I started to type out a response and then deleted it.
Yeah, I wonder how many percent of people do use family safety.
It just, I mean, I must admit, I didn't think that many, but I mean, it works really, really well for us, because you can set curfew times and time limits, which, me and my wife had a big, long discussions, because I kind of generally sit on the side of the fence of, well, we're the parents, so if they've had long enough on the PC, we'll tell them and they come off it. And if they don't, then they don't get to go on it the next day, or, typical kind of parenting stuff. But we actually use Family Timer on Windows PCs, and also their huddles do the same, because it actually teaches them about managing their own time. So if we were managing when they couldn't use their huddles, for example, they wouldn't be able to keep them in their room. They wouldn't be able to charge them, because we'd have to trust them not to use them when they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
But with the Family Timer, it means, let's say we give them 2 hours each day. We haven't got to keep thinking, well, they use it 15 minutes then, they've used it half an hour then. And, while it does mean that with a 2-hour window, it's a bit more rigid, you can always give them more time. But it just means that they can decide, I'll use it half an hour now and half an hour later, and we haven't got to keep track of it. So it does work really well. And plus, with Windows 8, you can control what apps get downloaded. You can put game restrictions in terms of, can they play, PEGI 10s or PEGI 12s. And so I've recommended it to quite a few people. And certainly when I mention it on Twitter, it's amazing how many people actually come back and are familiar with it. And as I say, have hit this issue. So I think it's probably, more widely used than probably you might expect.
Yeah, it's surprising that they would let a build out that would completely break it without being in the release notes.
Yes, now it's obviously not a complete showstopper, because I've got it on a laptop as well, which one of my sons uses quite frequently, so it's got family safety on there as well. And that seems to be working okay, although sometimes the start menu appears and sometimes it doesn't. But looking in event view, it doesn't seem to be the same problem. But as I mentioned, this desktop PC has had issues before where the child accounts couldn't access the start menu. and as I say now, it affects all of us, whereas the laptop didn't. So it's obviously some kind of upgrade issue. So I can accept that. You know, we've said before, you know, if you're in the insider program, you've got to be prepared to accept these issues. But what worries me is that, you know, they've kind of said we're going to try and do our best to let you upgrade through the insider program through all the builds right up to release. Whereas at the moment, it looks to me, unless they can resolve this in future builds, then I've got to do a clean install, which, you know, again, that's something that you accept when you join these programs, but it's frustrating. It's more frustrating, to be honest, that it's not actually getting any kind of recognition or discussion. You'd think that, you know, they'd want more information or, you know, but there we go. The one thing I will say, it does, people never cease to amaze me when the forum post that is on the insider program forums, the official ones, starts off with people saying, yeah, me too, and yes, I've tried this and that, and then you get the people going, I can't believe Microsoft is forcing this upon us, they need to fix this now. Microsoft, I want to fix for this today. It's like, hang on a second, not only have you opted into the insider program, you also elected to go into the fast ring build, where we complained they weren't getting builds fast, and they said, okay, you know, but accept there's going to be some risks. It just
yeah, you can't please everybody, definitely.
No, exactly. Yeah.
So we should say then there was 2 Windows 10 releases last week. There was a build for the phone and a build for the desktop. So we'll start off. We'll talk about the desktop one because that was the biggest change. So that's build. What was it? 10061. So there was quite a few changes in this one, and last week when we were talking, I was pretty saying, first of all, Spartan browser was pretty poor on the previous release, and that was worrying because that's one of the main things people interact with. But I have to say, on this release, it does seem a lot better, and it's actually now usable. And so that's actually made my Encore 8 actually now really usable again as a tablet. I mean, I was using it for TweetDeck or Tweetium actually, and it was good for that. But now with the Spartan browser working okay, then actually I think that's a good thing. So that's actually working okay. So this build to me does feel a lot more stable, and there's a lot less bugs in it than the previous release. I'm just going to open the release notes. I think what else was new? Some of the UI looks different, doesn't it?
Yeah, we've got this black theme. Now, what I'm finding is that I'm actually having a lot more problems with this build. Not quite on the JSON level, but I'm having things like apps closing just suddenly, particularly the new apps. I mean, that may be because of the new apps like the mail app. Certain mails I open just close it. And I see that. I've seen there's quite a bit of feedback about mail suddenly closing, but all the other apps are doing that as well, things which used to work. It's virtually impossible for me to watch Netflix on this machine now, which is one of the things I use it quite a lot for, or using the app, whereas if I use the browser it's fine, but if I use the app it dies virtually all the time. So there's something there which is causing that to close, and you get some really weird things happening, like I opened Spartan to look at a website the other day, and it just kept closing and reopening, which was really weird. But
the program or the tab?
The the app, the window just sort of would close and reopen, close and reopen, close and reopen.
Nice.
Which is kind of, but generally, I mean, I think Spartan is, as you rightly say, is a bit more stable in this release. So I think that's good. So there are some good things. I'm not going to say everything's bad.
Yeah, I think the direction they're going in is much better. The Spartan browser is definitely working better now. I still found some issues with it, but I only really noticed those on TDL because I know exactly how it should look, and you can see a difference. Have we lost Gary?
Yes. Sounds like yes. Sounds like it's going to break quiet. Look, I think you two just shut up moaning. At least you can run these things.
I know, yeah, it's quite funny that. I wonder if Gary's running on Windows 10 as well, so I wonder if his machine's crashed. But
it's really past the watershed. It's probably shut down.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just trying to look what else. Oh, so we got the new mail app. So you would have got to try this on your laptop then, wouldn't you? So yeah, we've got the new mail app, which does look better. I mean, I did get some comments from some people saying they didn't really like the layout of it, but I found the layout works okay. But certainly, at least it'll actually open mails, which was a problem with the standard Windows one. or the Windows 8 one app. I always have problems with that opening mails. So it does seem better. And the calendar app looks quite good as well. So I think that looked quite nice. I think what else we have was new on there. Oh, I think the basic UI was the main improvement. I think with the colors. I'll see if I can get Gary.
Yeah, I think I mean certainly there seems to be a lot more polish for, from the time I have been able to use it. Obviously the start menu is now resizable. I do quite like the black theme. So yeah, it certainly seems to be. It does feel like it's kind of coming together.
Except when it closes Windows on you, like.
That's just what we said. Yeah, is it Windows 10?
Yes, yep. When Skype just was closed out on me as I was speaking to you. Yeah, I don't know how far you got to me. But I was just moaning about the emails client not having a print option. I know it's early beta, so that they can add options like that, but it's kind of fundamental when you get stuff in like reservations.
That's one of the charms, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be, but it doesn't even have the it's not even in the Hamburg on this one. So and also cut and paste is a nightmare. Have you seen that on virtually all the new apps?
Trying to think. Yes, yeah, and with certainly the mail app seems to handle it differently than the other apps as well. It's
everything. I don't know if they're just trying to find the best way to do it, but
oh, his Skype's closed again.
I don't know. Beta testing software.
Yeah. he's frozen. I try to think what else was due then. While Gary reloads his Skype again. The action and tag center have got the dark theme, which I think looks a lot better. And he's trying to call back. It's coming back on my Surface now that Gary's calling. So I presume it'll come back on the.
Well, look, these Windows 10 builds might not be stable. At least our show is still professional.
That's right. But of course, I'll have to leave all these bits in now.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm back.
Yes, you're back again. Did Skype close again?
That's when I tried to cut and paste.
Don't cut and paste for the rest of the show, please.
Yeah, I think that's the answer. So, I mean, Spartan doesn't cut and paste very well either. You don't even always necessarily see what you're copying and cutting and pasting when you're doing Spartan.
I think that was a known issue, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, it still does it some of the time. Well, particularly if you're doing it from from the email client. But yeah, I mean, but I like some of the stuff in the email clients. One thing I don't. This seems to be generally on the other platform as well. They don't seem to show you the number of mails you've got outstanding in each of the accounts like they used to do on the old version, which I used to like. So lots of things I'm not quite sure about, but.
And I think the general way that it works on a tablet is better. Now, if you've got a small screen like this on Core 8, under 10 inches, it automatically puts into tablet mode, which makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the tablet mode does seem to work better, and also they've now distinguished the full screen start menu from the tablet mode, so you can have a full screen start menu even if you're not running tablet mode. Right. Yeah. Which I like because that's quite good. The other thing I noticed is that I mentioned that Storage Centers was in and running last time. The storage center, so you can actually now move your apps to a storage card. That actually caused me some issues because I set it up before the upgrade, and when I came back, it had actually moved away from that, and then I couldn't get it back to accept the fact that my apps were on the the secondary drive. So they obviously need to sort the upgrade process out on that. But when it works really well.
And I think the way it looks at the bottom of the screen in tablet mode, it's got more focus, and you've got the little task switch there. I think that looks better as well. So I think overall on this Encore, it's been working much better. They've still not fixed really the lock screen issues. I know that there was a problem with the black squares, which I had a few times, where you just get a sort of blank screen or a black screen when you come out of tab when you unlock it. But they fixed that today with an update, but they haven't fixed that timeout issue, so it's still a bit fiddly. You've got to do the power button and the Windows key, but overall I found that this Encore is performing a lot better, and apps aren't crashing quite as frequently. So there's a definite improvement especially over the last week's the build that we were talking about on the show last week.
Yeah, I think there's some improvements. I mean, hopefully they're going to improve it more. I still worry about meeting that that deadline. It just seems a long way away. Not a long way away in terms of builds to do, and a short time away.
And of course, we should mention. Sorry, I was just going to say the big bug with this one though is you can't launch any Win32 apps, can you? From the start
although there's a really shortcut to do that. Just right click it, open the file location, and then double click it, and it works absolutely fine.
There was an interesting discussion on Twitter around that about people realising actually that they don't actually start Win32 apps in the start menu very often.
Yeah.
I think most people kind of have stuff pinned to the taskbar, or they search for them and whatnot. But the one thing I found most interesting about this build is there was a lot of known issues reported, and each one, I think pretty much almost all of them had will be fixed via Windows Update. And with previous builds, those Windows updates have hit pretty quickly within 24, maybe 48 hours, whereas they haven't this time. So I'm here we go, prediction time.
Write it down, folks.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's because they are planning a new build. I saw. I noticed there was a story, I think, on Windows Central with the Windows 10 preview program is going to be renamed to the Windows 10 Insider program in terms of the name of the release that appears on the desktop. So I do wonder if we're going to see a new build on. I saw some leaks today with new kind of almost error effects on the start menu, which looks really nice.
Yeah, we should talk about that. I mean, we'll come back and talk about the phone build. But yeah, let's look at that. It's the build event tomorrow, or starting tomorrow, or just today, depending on when you listen to this. And I think it's bits 10071 is rumoured, isn't it? Oh, that's what's leaked. And I think we may well see that this week.
We will, we may, we might not.
In fact, I'll categorically say we'll see that this week. And hang on a minute. This is for editing purposes now. I categorically say we'll get a new build this week. I categorically say we won't get a new build this week. And I'll just drop the right one in there as appropriate.
Yeah. The one thing that has struck me is, with this split between the fast and slow rings, you would have thought if people are going to be building apps, they really need a stable slow ring build. That's the one thing I would predict, that we at least need to see that rolled out.
Yes, and the good thing about the slow ring is you get the ISO, so you can do a clean install, which is really a better experience. And so it would be good to get a new ISO for that. But yeah, I think we should see a new build this week, perhaps with like you said, with that sort of aero effect, and I think the live tile sort of rotates, doesn't it? Square sort of 3D rotation.
Yes, I was just eating my dinner. That was a long pause.
I thought you dropped off the face of the earth then.
No, I'm still on Windows 8.
His parents don't allow him.
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
Yeah, I must admit, I didn't actually get to watch the effect, but I read the description of it. So yeah, certainly. I mean, looking at the leak builds, and I know you never know, if they're mock-ups or not, but it certainly does seem to be like they are polishing up the UI now. But I'm more worried about the stability of the actual operating system in terms of where we are in the development cycle. But because I think there was also an update to the Office preview apps this week, wasn't there?
Yes, there was.
Which is something I realised I haven't even looked at.
Yeah, which again seemed quite good. Although this was a bit of an issue as well, wasn't it? That the store, the grey tile of the beta store, on one of my builds and one worked fine, wouldn't open. It would open, it would do updates, but then it would just crash. And there was a fix on that, and I'll try and include it in the show notes. But I managed to get that working, and then it brought down the new Office apps. Although I must admit, I couldn't see a lot of difference in those.
Yeah, I think Richard Hay was having the same problem, wasn't he?
Yeah.
On his installs, he couldn't get the beta store app to update.
But then I've now got this problem with OneNote. So I open OneNote Preview, and it says, "Sorry, something went wrong. We were unable to sign you in. Please try again later." And the option is try again. And then it comes up with the error message, and then your option is try again, and then it comes up with the error message. So there you go. So that's in a perpetual loop now. And you can't uninstall the OneNote Preview either. It's not listed as an app, right. So it's not like you could uninstall it and reinstall it and put the settings back in. So that's completely broken there.
Can you have the preview one and the kind of the Windows 8 version running side by side?
I tried to install that through the store, and it didn't seem to. It let me bring it down, but then it didn't seem to be there. So,
Right.
So I'm not sure. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I presume the next build will probably fix that, or there'll be some setting or registry that you can clear out. But it must be something to do with the settings that it's using. But yeah, it's not working. But apart from that, that's actually one of the only apps that isn't working currently. I said the mail app and everything else seems to be much better. But yeah, there is a lot of work still to be done on these apps to get these more stable. It's funny, isn't it? Josh that was complaining. Josh Parr was saying that he was having the issues, and then I think this build was better for him, and it was you with all the issues instead.
Yes. Yeah, I think. I mean, I think what I might do with the desktop PC is actually just try, once the slow ring hits with the ISO, I might well just try a clean fresh install, because it gets such little use these days that it's not going to be a big deal just to reinstall a few apps. I know some people have posted actually within the thread that they've actually done a PC refresh, and that has resolved it, although that's then meant actually reinstalling all the desktop apps. But so that might be one option that I could take.
Yeah. Now we should say as well, we were just talking about build. Do you think we'll get any new features then in this release?
I'm not expecting. Well, I kind of hope not, purely because I just think they need to get to the point where they just lock this thing down.
Yeah,
and we've got Spartan. I'm not quite sure what else is outstanding. I know there was the Xbox game streaming, but I think if necessary, I think they should delay that if that isn't in the product yet. Although I think the Xbox app received quite a big update, didn't it?
Yeah, I think that's coming through the app itself. So I don't think that would necessarily as like a core OS feature. But there is rumours of a very large feature coming to Windows 10, isn't there? Although particularly maybe on the mobile side, we'll talk about that. But we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to see what comes out this week and from build, and we should have a new build to play with. Like I said, I'll edit as a in fact, rather than me edit it, just imagine I said the right thing. That's probably the easiest thing. I put the prediction in and just delete as appropriate. But yeah,
it's like those cards you can buy, isn't it, with those tick boxes?
Yeah, that's it.
There will not be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I mean, I'm looking forward to see what they announce at build. And I think the desktop build is getting there. It's like I said, there's a lot of work to do. But we also got a phone build this week, last week as well. In fact, like I said, just as we were recording. So I don't think either of you've got a test phone to try that on, have you?
I've got my son's.
Oh,
and actually,
yes.
We discussed that in the car as well, didn't we? That we said it was interesting how it was released as a new build, but then I think with phones, it's more difficult to do just kind of patches.
Yeah.
And really, there wasn't a huge amount of it. Was 10052 for phones. There was not a huge difference to that. There wasn't really anything you see. It was more fixes of previous issues, and I think there was a few more devices supported, but not a huge.
The 520 that had been cancelled. Well, sorry, been taken out of the program was
back in. Yeah,
and I think there was also an update to the to restore the Windows Phone recovery tool, and to fix the problem with people rolling back to Windows Phone 8.1, which turned out to be on the kind of more on the cheaper phones. It was just trying to write data to the memory too quickly.
Yeah. So there wasn't a huge amount of changes. I think, like I said, there were fixes. I think we've got here flight mode can be enabled. You can disable data connections. It fixes some MMS bugs, and viewfinder fixed on the 1020. So not a huge amount of changes on there. I still find him with my 630 that it does a lot of random reboots. Even when I'm not touching it, it'll just be on the desk and I'll just see it reboot. So there's still issues like that with it. The Outlook Mail app is not bad. It seems a bit better, but nothing really major that you could see.
No, I was just going to say that sounds like my Lumia 930. That's only running Windows Phone 8.
So is this the time for me to get into the discussion about what phone should I buy?
Oh, yeah, before we get onto that though, yes, I do want to talk about that. But just so did you see I was alluding to before about new feature for mobile, the rumor that they'll enable Android apps on Windows Phone.
It's been a rumor for a while.
But yeah, but it seems to be picking up that maybe even showing off this week at Build.
Yeah, I've said this before. I would not be surprised. I mean, enabling Android apps in its own right is not necessarily enough, though, because obviously the Android hardware and Android software, so operating systems has certain support things in which lots of apps rely on. Are they going to enable those? So if it's ASO, the open source Android emulator, yeah, fine. I mean, it's a stopgap. It allows you to run programs you couldn't run before, and then will encourage the writing of full-blown versions for the Windows platform. I think we're actually going to see a few more Android announcements at Build. That's all I'm going to say at the moment. But I think we will. I think we'll see some more stuff coming out on the Android side of things. But I know a lot of I will get a lot of flags in the Windows Phone developer community for saying I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I think there's actually having it will actually. I don't think it'll be the end of the world for Windows development, because the people who weren't going to develop for Windows Phone aren't going to develop for Windows Phone anyway, and it's a stopgap until the people who decide that they perhaps want to develop a Windows 10 platform, because it's a lot more the universal app platform. It's going to be there to do so. So,
I mean, certainly from my perspective, there's been obviously a lot of discussion just recently with regards to kind of watering down a Metro, the switch to a hamburger menu instead of pivots, and for me, I mean, I kind of like that differentiation. I haven't had any issues with it, but if I really sit down and think about it, the reason why I'm drawn to Windows Phone is because of the live tiles, which I know Android has its widgets, but there's just something about the live tiles and the fact that the deep integration, you can pin different parts of the app to the home screen. So actually for me, it wasn't so much, the Metro wasn't the be all and end all. And in terms of Android apps on Windows Phone and maybe on Windows for PCs or convertibles, the argument ultimately, which is, does allowing Android apps say to developers, well, there's no point in developing Windows apps because they can just use my Android app, in which case does that developer base, do those applications wither and die? So ultimately it's the answer to that question. I don't know, Gary, do you think Windows developers would give up on the platform if they could just port or even just have the Android app?
Yeah, perfect timing.
Come on, Gary. We don't want the politician's answer. Don't sit on the fence. So, I mean, well, Gary comes back on the call. I mean, that for me is the base argument, and I do feel strongly that Android apps shouldn't be, because I just think it is a kick in the teeth for developers. But at the same time, I'm not a developer, and by developing for Windows, the big driver for developing for Windows specifically is the fact that from an enterprise, there's still a billion odd PCs out there which could end up running Windows 10 if people take advantage of the free upgrade. So there is certainly the install base, and as Microsoft slowly homes its skills in terms of cross-platform development, I noticed Mary Jo Foley was talking about I can't remember the code name or the product name, but I think it was Air something. She was talking about being able to maybe compile applications and develop them with I know Office running on Android, they've managed to port quite a bit of C++ across to that platform to make the code base standard. So ultimately, if Microsoft ends up going down that path, they could almost switch things around. So actually it's better to develop Windows applications that also run on easily portable or easily compilable for Android.
Yeah. But I think from my point of view, it could, I'll let you put your say. I'll just finish what I was saying. But I think from my point of view, with running Android apps on Windows Phone, I think it actually is quite a good thing, because one of the things that will force people to drop Windows Phone is the lack of that certain app. Now, it doesn't really. It's different for everybody. But an example would be, I don't know, maybe the official or an Instagram app like the Android one that does a lot more than the Windows Phone one, or there's something else, some other app that's really important to you, and it could prevent you from, or it could cause you to move platforms to Android because the Windows Phone just hasn't got that app. So if it's available there as an Android app that you can just use, then it could mean that you'll continue with Windows Phone and you'll get the best experience when you use the native apps, but then you've got a fallback if the app's not available. And it's better to have that combination than it is just to ditch the whole thing and say, oh, I can't be doing with this. I'm a mad Costa Coffee fan and I can't manage without my Costa Coffee app, so I'm going to ditch the platform. I mean, my son being like, there's a few apps that he's mentioned, and it could cause him to leave the platform completely next time he looks at the phone.
Yeah, I think the difficulty is how much access these apps are going to have. For example, one thing I heard someone talk about today was, well, that'd be great. I can run the Pebble app on my Windows Phone and get all my notifications. But are they going to allow these Android apps access to the SMS and all the notification system? It really depends how far they take it and if it's actually going to be particularly useful now. So, and one point I would make on this is that you've been able to run Android apps on Windows for ages. There are so many third-party plugins which allow you to run Android apps on Windows, just not on Windows Phone. So, and it hasn't discouraged people from writing Windows apps. I don't think. I mean, I don't think that anybody specifically said, "Oh, I'm not going to write a Windows app because you can run Android on Windows." So I think there is that. I mean, but it is going to really. I mean, we'll have to see what they actually do announce. But I think it depends how deep they go in terms of the integration.
I mean, like I think. It could be just that they enable the most basic functionality, and that if you want, the full Windows Phone integration as a developer, you need to actually write, a Windows Phone app. And while you were off the call, I was saying about, I noticed Mary Jo Foley was talking about a lot of work that Microsoft have put into building a way to compile apps developed in like C++, etc., into their Android apps. So maybe that's the other path that actually. Potentially Microsoft could switch things around. Actually, it's just as easy to develop for Windows Phone, and because they've got the tools in place to port that across to Android.
I think there's a. I mean, I've certainly heard. I mean, it was strange that they actually came up with an Android emulator and all that sort of things going forward. So they have put a lot of effort into that, and I think we're going to see more on that side of things. I mean, I do sometimes wonder how the relationship between Microsoft and Xamarin will work going forward. Whether because Microsoft is a developer tools company amongst a lot of other things, and it's one of the big sources of revenue, and they're probably losing some of that now to people like Xamarin. So. Is that something where they might become a competitor potentially? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think also there's the other argument that if you can just run Android apps on Windows Phone, then eventually you get to the point where people just buy an Android phone, and Microsoft slowly dies in terms of the mobile market, but. You've only got to look at the recent stories regards to the potential write-down they're going to have to do for the Nokia acquisition to realise that this Windows Phone project is now really starting to hit them in the wallet. And as soon as that happens, you start to get angry shareholders. So I'm not saying it's going to be cancelled, but it's certainly going to have to. They've got to do something to make the platform viable.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this theory for years. Well, not theory, an idea for years that. If you had a universal app platform which actually allows you to develop Android apps as well as Windows Phone apps, it becomes a much more interesting thing to develop in. If you take that to iOS one step further, I don't think Apple will let you do that, but the possibilities are there that you could actually have a much bigger market. But then it also says, okay, I've written my app for Windows in US UAP. Say in 2 years' time, they decide that. Well, maybe the fundamentals of underlying our phone should be AOSP, open source project, but we'll keep our live tiles, we'll keep our nice user interface, and all your apps just need to be recompiled. They'll just work, or they don't even need to be recompiled; they'll just run.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I was saying in terms of the main pull to me to the platform is the start screen, is the fact that you don't have to have every app pinned to the home screen like you do on iOS. So. for me, and I think we've talked about this before, actually, do I really care if my Windows phone actually runs Windows? Well, no, not really. It's the experience that I love, the experience that makes me choose Windows Phone. It's not the Windows operating system.
Although to some extent it probably is, because on some of the hardware we run Windows Phone on, you wouldn't get a very good experience on other operating systems. Now, maybe someone could take the Android open source project and actually make it lean and mean and more of a fighting machine than the current version of it is, because it is fairly bloated at the moment. So it's really weird to me to say that the Windows is the leaner of the operating systems, but that does seem to be the case at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that is the big thing about Windows Phone, isn't it? It's so smooth across all different devices, even down to 512 megabyte of RAM devices. So they've clearly got a long way to go to get that same buttery smoothness on Windows 10 for phones. But yeah, it's I mean it's going to be interesting. But we've talked almost probably for must be about 2 years now since Windows 8 came out that Microsoft is in that transitional state. They are facing irrelevance in terms of the mobile market. So, but and that's why we have Office on iOS and Android. It's a case of do or die. And while it would be nice if Windows Phone became, let's say a 20-25% of the market, at the moment, it's you really got to say. I mean, when was Windows 7 for Phone series or whatever it was called? That must have been what, 2008.
Yeah, something around there, wasn't it?
Was it? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I think it probably would be.
Yeah, 2008. I think 2009 was when the first actual devices launched. Or was it 2010? I'm trying to think now. But anyway, it's certainly good 4 or 5 years into the project, if not more. And there does come a point where the boards are going to say, look, you've just written off another £7 billion. Can we just go with Android now?
I think what we might potentially see though is a Microsoft built Android OS. I think that's the alternative, isn't it? I think that we'll see that instead of producing Windows Phone, they'll Gary goes again. Whether Microsoft would work with it or do it themselves, it's just to use ASOP and have it as Microsoft branded version of Android. So you could still have the Play Store in there. Although I think that causes some issues, doesn't it, then with Google services and things. The problem is I've tried it with my Nexus, is making it as sort of Microsoft as I can. But you still got a lot of the Google services built into it as a prerequisite. So I think that's where the Cyanogen and things like that that becomes interesting. Whether the Cyanogen could use Microsoft services all the way through it, and then you get sort of a Microsoft flavor of Android, and that becomes something that they promote. But like we said before, if they've got all their apps on Android, does it really matter if Windows Phone doesn't exist? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they were betting the farm on Windows 8, then I think this time around they're betting the farm on universal apps.
Yeah,
and I think that's going to be the key when you've got the proposition. Ultimately they need Windows 10 to take off and be on millions and billions of PCs, not just the few small percentage that it's on at the moment. Because that then draws attention, and if you can write apps for that many people, then that's not 10% of the market. And I think while we would like a pure mobile and a pure desktop separation, I think it's same with Windows 8. The reason why I think they're carrying on down that is because of that temptation. If you had 1 billion users of a PC that didn't have modern apps in it, then there's no incentive. But just maybe if you've got 1 billion users that also have a modern interface, then there is a driver for developers.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the key, isn't it?
Oh, the Windows 10 experiment has come to the end. I'm now on my trusty Surface RT running Windows 8.1.
That's better.
That's got something else that we have seen no sign of yet of what update they're going to receive. All they've said is there will be an update. We've no idea what that will entail, will it? Because I must admit, I remember an argument about whether or not I sell my Lumia 2520, and the only thing that would be worthwhile keeping it for was if it will also run the next generation of modern store apps.
That's going to be interesting. I wonder whether you'll get the new mail app and maybe the new store, but then it doesn't have all the APIs for the new APIs that are in the Universal app. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
I think it's maybe we'll get to find out a build. You never know.
Yeah. Now there are some other news items I want to mention, and by the way, if you want to have a look at the build of Windows 10, the desktop build, I did do a short video showing it off. So if you don't want to go to the trouble of wrecking your machine installing it, then you can have a look at the video. But yeah, before we look at some new news apps, I've been doing testing some of the new Lumia devices recently, and I know Gary, he's got it again. I was just going to ask him because he's interested in a new phone, but it looks like his Surface RT is
this time it was Wi-Fi problems.
Right. So we'll just say, before we look at some other news, I want to fit in time, just talk about, you were saying you were looking at getting a new phone.
Yeah, my 1020's given up the ghost. Apparently a common problem on 1020s is that it won't charge anymore. The charging port's gone, and they want to charge me an absolute fortune to replace the charging ports as out of warranty. So I need to find a replacement.
And because I tested you've got plenty of options with Windows Phone. I mean, you could go for something like the 630, 635, which can get really cheap now. I think 630 you can get for 60 quid now. 4G though. I'm
totally realizing that I'm not going to get a replacement for the 1020, which is going to be a feature for a super phone at the moment. So I'm looking for a stopgap at the moment.
But I think the 735, which I reviewed last week and I posted a video of, I think that is actually quite a good option because it's got the wireless charging, it's got decent cameras on it, and it's got a quite nice sort of design as well. It feels like an all-in-one rather than a removable back, but it is a removable back. So I think that's quite a nice phone. It's got 4G on it as well. So I think that was 180 quid without a contract,
which is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. So I quite like that. So I think that's a nice phone. Although the 640, I've got one of them on the way for a review. That should also be an interesting phone, but I don't think that supports wireless charging.
No, it doesn't. That's the trade-off. So it's similar process. It's interesting. The 75 is almost a better spec than the 830.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion around whether or not the 830 is worth that extra bit of money. I think it's mainly the camera, isn't it, with the 830?
Yeah, the camera. I mean, the camera. I mean, I'm really going to miss this camera on the 1020.
Yeah.
20, but I'm not going to get anything near that at the moment, unless I went for 930. And having heard Jason's tales of on the 930, I'm not convinced to go that way. And to be fair, I don't like the form factor of the 930. I prefer the 735 form factor. I actually quite like the look of, because it's got that rounded sides and everything. From looking at your video, that looked really quite cool.
It's got a very nice feel. The 630's got a very plasticky feel, but this isn't plastic. I think it's that polycarbonate, is it?
Yeah. I mean, the 640 would be my option, but I do miss wireless charging. I've got so many things which do wireless charging, and I actually miss that. So so it's definitely becoming a. You hear that? That's your site, Ian. I just went to this lifestyle front page and I got some audio coming from somewhere.
Yes, I got that earlier.
I'm not even sure where that's coming from, because there doesn't seem to be any video on this.
No, there's no video on it. It'll be one of the ads.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Well, certainly the 735 is a nice device for that price, I think.
Yeah, I think it looks like that's definitely a contender at that sort of cost as a short-term possibility. And of course, I can take selfies with it.
Very good selfies, yeah.
And I think if you're not a fan of the form factor of the 930, then the 830 is worth avoiding as well, because I think while it's a bit thinner, it does have it's the same design.
Yeah.
I'm surprised in that they're not sending the 640 XL.
Yeah, it was just what they had in.
They obviously don't know you very well, do they?
The 640 XL would be the ideal device, and it's what my son wants, the 640. Although I think he doesn't want the XL either. He wants just the normal. He says the XL's too big. Right. So anyway, well, let us know how you get on with that. I'll obviously I'll do this 640 review and have a look at that. But I certainly think 735 is a bargain. If you can get that at a decent price, then it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah, and it's got sensor core as well, hasn't it? Which is good, because because I haven't had that. That would be quite useful to have.
Now the Sense Core is now even more usable.
Yes,
useful.
Because Health supports it now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Microsoft Health.
So Microsoft updated the Microsoft Health app today. The Health app is the app you use to manage and track the data from your Microsoft Band, but they've updated it today on all the platforms. I think the iOS one is still in the process of being approved, but the Android and the Windows Phone one have now accept the sensor core or the sensor on the Android. So you can actually use the Windows, the Microsoft Health app to track your steps and sort of calories from the steps, just using the phone sensor, which is really good. So if you haven't got a band, you can still get some good use out of the app.
Yeah, that's really a good idea, I think.
And I think it's probably a sign that they're going to open it up for other devices as well. It wouldn't surprise me if you can get to other, maybe like Acer or Fitbit or whatever, they can incorporate into that app. That'd be pretty good to see. So once, which is what you said right from day one was the plan.
Yeah, definitely.
But also the other change they did, he said it's got the automatic sleep detection like the Fitbits do. I'm not sure how that works, but Jed, you had a Fitbit in you tracking your sleep. Does it automatically detect when you go to sleep?
No, you have to tap it.
Right. Well, there are some devices that do it. There are some that do the sort of the tracking. So anyway, the band should be able to do that.
Yeah, my Pebble does that.
Right. Yeah. So that's it. That's in the new build, which is good to see. And it's also interesting to note once again, if you want a device that it works on Android, or you switch to Windows Phone, or you switch to iOS, it's well supported. There's also been some good apps for it as well, updated recently. I've noticed there's a nice app for preventing sunburn, because the Microsoft Band's got a UV sensor on it, and you can go outside and it'll say moderate sun, so you can spend 60 minutes in it, and it says moderate, and it gives you that time. But it doesn't take into account any additional factors like any sunscreen you're wearing, or whereabouts you are, sort of height-wise, or your skin type. So there's an app that I found that does that as well. So you can put those factors in, and it'll then tell you how long you can be out in the sun. And the developer does say that there's a bug in the SDK at the moment that's prevented him doing notifications, but that when that's fixed, he's going to have it so it'll automatically notify when you've had enough sun.
Okay, that's cool.
Which is quite good, yeah. I mean, I was out in the sun the other day, and it sort of said moderate 45 minutes, something like that. But obviously, that's not taking into account my bronzed tat figure. And there were some other. What were the other updates for the Microsoft? Oh yeah, if you're into Xbox Live, you can now get your Xbox Live avatar on the what Microsoft call the Me tiles, which is the background. Nice little app that you put in your Windows Live ID, and it brings down the image and overlays it on the tile, so you can have your little avatar that you've set up on there as well, which I thought was quite nice.
Always good to have your avatar with you.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, yeah. You should always carry your avatar in you, Jace. Yeah. So you could be spotted in the car park.
Yeah. Yeah. How else do you recognise without the Xbox Live hats and glasses? Did you have your hat with you, Jason?
No, I didn't know.
I did almost miss Jason when I went to pick him up, and I said to him in the car, "It's because you weren't your avatar. If you've been your avatar, I spotted you straight away."
Yeah. And I've got a new avatar on Skype, if you notice, courtesy of Skype Moments. I don't think you can pick it up on your Skype.
Yeah, I can. I saw that on. I saw it before it crashed.
Now there was a couple of things I want to mention. Oh yeah, the not to leave Android users out. There's a new alarms app for the Microsoft Band. Because one of the annoying things with the Band is you've got an alarm on there, which is great, but it's a one-off. So if you set the alarm for 7 a.m., it won't go off the day after, and the day after it's just a one-off. So there's a little reoccurring alarm app, which is quite good. A couple of things. I posted a review of the Acer Aspire V, which is the most traditional notebook I've reviewed for some time. So it's just a traditional notebook, which was quite nice. I posted that, and I posted a video of the Philips Pico Pix that we saw at the Gadget Show Live, which is quite a nice device. And I've got one of the short throw one we talked about as well. I've got that to edit and post up. MB MB News, you can get MB on your Fire TV now, or your Fire TV stick. So MB, which formerly Media Browser, you can now get that there. So if you've got Media Browser set up, you can go and get that on the stick and watch your TV. And I think it even supports live TV if you've got
it works
live
very well. I've tried that. It works really well.
Yeah, MB a great system now. There's sort of clients for every platform, which is always good to see. So what else have we got? Is it put? So I've got a few more videos to post from the Gadget Show, and some more review. I've done a couple of really nice wireless charger actually. That I've got to try. And one that I've not yet tried is an in-car one, which seems really good. So I'm quite into this wireless charging now. So this is from a very nice chaps at wirelessphonechargers.co.uk who we met at the Gadget Show, and they've got, so when you go in your car, the first thing I always do is plug my phone in, but this now you can just plug it straight. You put it on the dash and it charges through the Qi charging, which I think is quite good. So
it's really good. So. That's the same company who's got is solar.
Yes.
I have to dig it out and put the show notes. But they supplied us with for Fascinating Tech a really nice solar panel, sort of a charge pack and solar panel on top, which is incredible because it just never seems to run out of power. Even in we had reasonable sun the last few days, I guess, but we've just been running it for the last 4 or 5 weeks, and it just always seems to be topped up to the full amount just by leaving it on a windowsill. But what they gave us for that, and it's one of the really best uses I've ever thought for a solar charger unit, is a little LED lamp, USB light. And I could just imagine if you're traveling around camping or whatever like this, you've got a light which you just leave outside all day and then come back on and just switch it on. It works really, really well. But I found it really useful for sort of, those sort of jobs where you suddenly need a torch to get into somewhere, and this thing's always available and it's always charged and it's always got a really good bright light. I know it can have a torch with batteries in, but it seems to work really, really well.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's the thing with the solar one. You can leave it on, and then it just runs its battery out, doesn't it? Then charges up the next day. It's quite a nice design up. Anyway, so I should have some of those videos up over the next probably next couple of weeks. So I think that was. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just wait for the next build next week so we can have more.
Yeah, so so this week, like we said, it is the Microsoft Build Conference, and then the week after is Ignite, which is sort of the old tech ed thing, isn't it? So I don't know. Will they save some stuff for next week? We'll have to wait and see. I think they have got. I just got an email from HoloLens saying that they've got something on it at Build as well. So. I've already told my wife I'm ordering one of those, no matter what the cost is.
We might get some. I don't know if we'll get some pricing yet, but we might also get some more news on that. So so Ignite next week, which I don't know. I can't see there being a lot talked about other than enterprise stuff at Ignite. But Build's certainly going to be interesting. I'll be watching the keynote with a lot of other developers tomorrow, so hopefully.
Yeah. What time's it? What time's it? About
4:30, I think, UK time.
Right.
So by the time people listen to this podcast, obviously it'll be gone and gone. But anybody in the live chat room can tune in to it.
And of course it'll be available on demand as well, which Microsoft is pretty good at releasing.
Yeah, you should be able to get back and see it. So I'm not going to be on the show next week because I'm be on a flight to Georgia.
Nice.
as in the Russian former Soviet Republic. So
not the American state.
Not the American state. So it's an interesting flight. It's going to take me 12 hours to get there, which is going to be fun.
But Aeroflot.
No, I do actually get to go a European airline, but it is going to be quite an interesting thing. But I think it's going to be quite an interesting event there. So. Which I can't tell you about.
If you get stranded, unfortunately, I won't be able to offer you a lift.
No. So.
Well, give us your Twitter then so we can follow you.
I'm at Gary WMA, GARRY, because some people keep spelling. There's someone out there who's got an at we one R impersonating me. I think I'm going to have to get one of those tick marks. Or you can find me at Fascinating Tech. magazine. We've just put the preview up of the next issue. We'll be bringing that out. We're just putting together miles and miles of video of our review of the Outlander Fev, which you mentioned about. But there's a little bit of little tempter up there at the moment. You can have a look at, and the competition is up there and live, so you can win prizes. And as I mentioned last week, if you're a Digital Live listener, just mention it when you enter, and you will get a bonus prize.
Excellent stuff. And Jace, where do we find you?
You can find me on Twitter at DatabaseJace, and I can confirm that Gary doesn't play only WMA files in his car.
No, but can we follow you after 9 o'clock? That's the question.
Oh yeah, no tweeting after 9 o'clock, and I have to get my parents' permission.
Yeah,
I have to get the permission of the bill payer.
So when the next bill comes out, if you can get your parents' permission to upgrade it, that'll be great. And
yes, that would be very helpful.
Yeah. So
just my problem is of course I can't get into Windows updates because it's now a mod map.
Yeah, you're totally yeah.
So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get around that one.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting concept, isn't it? It really does. Does become a challenge.
Yeah, and if you go to Control Panel, there isn't Windows Update in there anymore.
Yeah. Yes, I noticed they took it out.
Yeah.
Well, so it just builds next week. So we'll play the builds next week and we'll see what happens.
I'm going to have to figure a challenge of how to dial into Show 500 because I'm still going to be out there, which is going to be a bad timing on my part.
Oh yes, so that was the thing I was going to say. I'm glad you reminded me. Actually, Show 500. We've done sort of milestone shows before. We've looked back and we've looked forwards. So So I don't think we'll have any fixed agenda for Show 500. But if you've got any comments or emails you want to send in just about your experiences, the listeners' experiences, what tech you're using now and where you started out or anything like that, you can send those in at thisjustlifestyle.com, or you can use the contact form on the site or Twitter or whatever. We'd like to get some listener input for Show 500. So no particular agenda, just send your emails in and we'll read them out.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a good show.
Yeah. So, well, we're back next week then. So, with just me and Jason. And until then, enjoy build.
Yep, enjoy build and enjoy nights and
builds.
Builds.